My homie, what's up? How you doing?
America still needs your help.
America. Oh man, that game was awful. I just saw it touted as one of the best games ever made.
So good.
Avengers from like the was it 90s? Pretty sure it's
It
90s.
was, yeah, that was on the NES. No, it was on the Genesis, wasn't it? Sega Genesis?
Mine was Super Nintendo, so I don't know. Yeah,
The
it was
Avengers.
the Avengers. It was the worst. It was that like when song or when we first started playing video games, like you would play like one of those Tiger handheld things or like Game Boy, and it would go, or like Double Dribble was the best one because they couldn't just record human voice. They didn't have high enough like high
Yeah.
fidelity recording, so it'd be
Double
like
Wibble.
yeah, it goes "Bwah, bwah, bwah," and forever I had no idea they were saying. Okay, so you'd be playing the game, and all of a sudden one of your guys would like put his hands out, and the other guy would fall down, and I had no idea what he was saying, but it would always go push foul, and what it's saying is push foul. I
Oh,
didn't know
I
it was
always
going.
thought it was pratfall, like what Chevy
Yeah.
Chase does on SNL.
Yeah, I
Pratfall.
had no idea. I was always like, oh, it's saying something about. I had no idea. Like there was, and this was pre-internet, so like people just wildly speculated, and every kid, of course, actually knew the answer, but they were all wrong because they'd be like, no, it's talking about what was the anyway. But as it got better and better, there's this uncanny valley where it wasn't great. And the Avengers was one of those. Like it's clearly like shittily recorded on like an 8-track or something, and it's
Yeah.
like the Avengers, and you just get like the janitor from the studio down the hall or something because they didn't hire voice actors back then. America still needs your help. Like who tried out for that and got turned down, and that guy got picked. That's what I wonder.
Some guy walks in, he's like, America still needs your help. I'm like, no, not quite. Not what we're looking
Ooh.
for.
Well, we've only got 2 people trying out for this part, so how about you? America! All right, sure, why not?
I know it's like a time traveler from the 40s, like got off the radio and he's like, "Oh yeah, stick it to that, Mr. Hitler. Put him there."
Yeah, they're like, get him on here. America! The Avenger! Who does it like that? I don't understand.
Oh, so good.
It's like that guy who announces for the UFC. And I'm kind of talking to a niche part of our audience, but this guy, his name's Bruce Buffer, and he's a fucking moron. You can Google something called TJ Dillashaw, which is a fighter, and he loses his mind announcing for this guy because he always shouts, and he shouts louder and louder. So this is the main fight, and he goes, and this time he just went, normally he's at like a 9. This time he went like an 11.5, and he's like shaking his head. His face is red, and they like zoomed in on his face. It's hilarious. But
Oh man.
same thing. These people losing their minds. Your job is to talk into the microphone. How do you mess up? The Avengers! It's so weird. Anyway, Marvel games. That's what we're talking about, homie. Oh, is that your cat's butt?
That's my cat's tail.
Okay. Yes, Marvel games, but not all superhero games, but Marvel games in particular. Why
Yes.
Marvel games in particular?
So we did a long time ago. Old school listeners will remember we did a superhero genre episode, but since then Marvel's been putting out a lot of games, even more so than before, and we ourselves have been caught up in them on some level. So I thought it'd be fun just to talk about the Marvel world of gaming and how marvelous it is.
Oh, come on, David. Did you plan that?
No,
Or was that
yes, I've rehearsed it several times this morning.
The event. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Marvelous. That's how it sounds.
Excelsior!
But people like love that game, that Avengers game. So I shouldn't shit on it too much. I mean, I played it like crazy, but that's mostly because back in the day there was only like so many games that came out at once, and so you were kind of stuck with a game that your mom
Yeah, I
bought.
kind of missed that. I missed having it's like we talk about the paralyzation of choice. Like now, when I want to play a game, I turn on Steam and I see 100 games staring at me. Like, why didn't you ever play me? You bought me on Steam sale in 2014, and you haven't ever installed me. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
And I've got mine like installed, but they've 0 hours played because like I rub my chin. I'm like when I go to clear up space on my computer, I'm like. Not gonna get rid of Sniper Elite version 2. You never know when I could get around to that, but I never touch it.
You never know. Yeah, so I kind of miss those days in the 90s when it was like there were 20 games that came out in a year, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were 3 of them if you were super lucky and mowed a lot of lawns.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I remember you beat the game and you're like, there was this. This doesn't happen anymore. Like I beat a game like Moon Command on Atari, and as soon as I beat it, I was like, huh. Well, hit the reset button and play it again. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Now it's like I finished. And I'm like, wow. Well, uninstall that from Steam. All right, we're done. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But, yeah, I thought we could start off. There's way too many games to list because Marvel is just a cash cow for video games, apparently. But I thought we could just kind of go through and talk about the ones that we enjoyed as youth and currently. And then I wanted to point out that they kind of there's something interesting about Marvel games in that they tend to hit different genres of video games. And then we can tie that into what Marvel does with their cinematic universe, and maybe you've got some psychology to bring into it as well.
Yes, a ton of psychology into
Awesome.
that. Definitely going to do that.
Why we keep you around. So, what was the first Marvel game you remember playing?
I mean, I'm going to have to say the X-Men game. No,
for the Nintendo Entertainment System?
That or Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six. That game is the worst.
That was me. That was my first one. Was Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six, or maybe it was I think it was Spider-Man versus Sinister. It was on the Game Boy. No, it was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 on the Game Boy. That was the first one I played.
Man!
It was some kid at recess had one. I'm talking those old block Game Boys with the green screens.
Yeah.
And that game sucked. It was so hard. You did not feel like Spider-Man. You felt like Mega Man, but with like somehow worse jumping abilities and like worse projectiles. So you're still shooting little pellets of webbing, but everything else that makes you feel like Spider-Man was not in that game, except for just angst. There was a lot of angst because
couldn't even web swing, and everybody had a gun. I'm actually watching a play of it right now because I forgot all the shitty parts. It's so
Remember
bad.
That? The Game Boy. That was my first Marvel game. Was not impressed. Of course, I wanted to play it because it was that or Foursquare.
Double dribble.
Those were your options at recess, but it was very difficult. Not a fun game.
It was awful. Yeah, and they just didn't. This is still a problem kind of today, where I think the people who are making the game aren't familiar enough with the comic.
Yeah, to know what makes Spider-Man something you want to be.
Yeah. Man, I'm allergic to bad games. I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. It was so frustrating. Why in the game? It's playing on my second monitor here. Why do you have chains and ropes to climb up when you're Spider-Man? Like, who designed that level?
Right?
Obviously, just walk up the wall or shoot your own goddamn web.
Like it's a platform where you got to include ladders.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird. Anyway, so that was my first game playing, and it was awful. And I beat it? Yeah, I beat it. Doc Ock was hard. But yeah, I beat it.
My next one that I can remember is the X-Men game for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Which one was that? Was that the one with Gambit?
Oh, man. It's called The Uncanny X-Men. Look it up. It's crazy. So it's a top-down view, and you just walk around, and you shoot things, and you can control lots of X-Men at once, if my memory serves, but that was never a good thing because it just made it hard to dodge things because everyone's moving at the same direction that you press. So you're just getting hit a lot.
Oh, God. I'm looking at this. This is awful, Dave.
It's so bad. So describe what you're watching for people who got alive in 1989.
Have you ever eat a bunch of Mexican and then like the toilet afterwards never looks the same? That's what this looks like.
Yeah.
No, it's like top down Contra with like Hyrule or Gauntlet kind of. I don't even know what's going on the screen. Yeah, it's weird. Wow, so you could play different superheroes.
Yeah, you could be Cyclops. I remember there was Cyclops, there was Wolverine, there was Iceman, and I can't remember who else was in it, but they all were basically the same. You just walk around, and then the B button would shoot out eye lasers or ice beams or Wolverine claws that would shoot out. It's whatever projectile fit the character.
What the fuck is going on with this game? This is terrible, David.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Huh. So yeah, you played that. Did you beat it?
No. The game was stupid. There was no way to beat it. It wasn't even fair.
Oh my god, what is this? There's like a little S you can get that stops everyone on screen, and they're like shooting like centipede-looking things.
Yep.
It's the worst.
Yep. It was like the game Centipede got like an X-Men license.
Dude, I played one of the games I played. The next one that I played was what was it called? It was not separation anxiety. It was a Spider-Man game where you could be where Maximum
Spider-Man
Carnage.
Maximum Carnage.
Maximum Carnage, yeah. And the soundtrack to that, they this was like one of the first games that like got like an actual band to play. It was I think they were called Green Jelly was the band.
Yeah.
But I plugged it in, I hit play, and I'm fucking jamming all of a sudden. Like I'm like, yes! Oh, Maximum Carnage. What a great game. That game was awesome. I don't give a shit who you are. This is much better than this shit I'm watching on my screen over here.
Yeah, that one was fun. It was very comic booky. Like the cutscenes were all comic books. And the sequel, Separation Anxiety, lets you play 2 players at the same time. So co-op.
Yeah.
So this is, what genre would you put that in? It's like a co-op beat 'em up, right? Like Double Dragon.
Yeah. It's a lot like Final Fight or not Final Fight, Streets of Rage in that kind of game.
Except you're Spider-Man, and in the second one you could play with Venom, and you're just teaming up. It's a team up.
That game was great. Yeah, because it was one of the couch co-op games where you get to play as Spider-Man. It's the only one, I think. Are there any more? I don't think so. But that was great, dude, because one guy, like, as Venom, you know, the fight styles were different, just like Streets of Rage and that kind of thing, too. So, like, you know, if you get the big guy and yeah, and Venom, like, it was just brutal. And then Spider-Man was, you know, a little more athletic, a little cooler. But other than that, they were fairly indistinguishable. Playing
Yeah,
the different
and you
ones.
could web swing instead of walking, which was cool. There was no reason to do it. It was just cool.
Yeah, but playing as Venom, oh man, that was awesome. Loved it.
So the next one I can remember was X-Men Mutant Apocalypse for the Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah, that
That was
shit, too.
1995. That game was awesome. I love that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, I might be thinking of the wrong one.
Yeah, no, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse was the one where you start off, each X-Men has their own little mission. So like Gambit has a mission, and Psylocke has a mission, and Beast has a mission, and Cyclops has a mission, and Wolverine. Those were the characters you could be.
Oh, it's based off the animated show, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this game is rad. I never played it.
Oh, it was so fun. And like each of the X-Men had different play styles. So like when you were playing as Beast, you could walk on the ceiling and like punch down on people, and like you could like leap onto people and leap off of them, so you're just kind of feral monster. When you were playing as Psylocke, she had a bunch of like ninja moves where you could like jump off people's heads and like stab down with your side blade, and Wolverine would just like plow through people and he could slowly regenerate his health. And then Gambit was awesome because you could throw cards in any direction, or you could throw 3 cards, and he had staff combos you could do. And then Cyclops had this thing where if you rotate down, forward, and B like a Hadouken, he would shoot his little eye lasers out and just clear the room.
It's so weird how few games, or how many games make his eye lasers like a move that he has to use or something, when that's clearly his preferred way of combat. When he shows up to a fight, if he starts punching, I'd be like, "What the fuck you doing, bro? Use your eyes. That's why you made the team.
You have
You're not
lasers,
Ninja Man.
You just
Cold
look at things
Cyclops.
and they die. That's your power.
Why are you punching and kicking? What's wrong with you?" Less lethal option. No, you can turn your visor down to be less lethal.
Yeah, it's a fun one. And then, but a lot of people, instead of playing that one, they played the Genesis X-Men games. Remember those?
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking about. That was shit.
Yeah. That one you could be Nightcrawler, but it was I didn't like it as much. It was more of a platformer.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. I didn't really care for that one. I don't remember the name of it. Let me see. I actually have a list of games here I was gonna reference, but I don't recall the name. Good radio here.
X-Men 2, The Clone Wars, and X-Men were the ones on Genesis.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of, I think. Oh man, I think I played. Yeah, I think that was it. But the game that nailed Spider-Man, oh man, was. Hold on, were there any other I played after that?
So we're still in the 90s.
Mine is late 90s is what I'm thinking of. Besides Captain America and the Avengers, by the way. The Avengers!
America! Yeah, that one was fantastic. And that one was kind of a Double Dragon kind of game, too. It was 2 players, kind of side-scrolling. It seems like a good fit for superheroes was this kind of scrolling beat-em-up genre that they had a lot of success with.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? One I forgot, actually, in the mid-90s? X-Men vs. Street Fighter. The fighting game.
Huh.
Did you ever play that in the arcade? Oh man, I loved that game. I played that in the arcade. It was 2 quarters, by the way, at the arcade I went to. So I don't know if that's just because it was so popular or because it was so new, but
there was one more that there were a couple more in the early 90s that I played. There was the did you ever play Spider-Man X-Men in Arcade's Revenge? That was on
No,
the
I don't
Super
think so.
Nintendo. That game was so bad. It was in 1992, so like early years of the Super Nintendo, and it was just a weird platformer. But everybody was tiny. Like on the screen, they were just really small, so you couldn't really tell what you were doing. And it was lethal. It still had that kind of NES era lethality, where no matter what happened, like you were gonna die a lot for no reason. You felt like the most impuissant, like the most impotent superhero that's ever been in any format. You just die from because arcade.
Yeah.
He's like already like a D-list villain, right? Like his whole
Yeah.
thing is like, I put people in fun houses and the fun houses kill them. So it's like this 90s obsession with like Chucky dolls and just clowns that kill you, just like fun carnivals that are deadly.
This is hilarious. I looked it up, right? And the first video it says Spider-Man, X-Men, Arcade's Revenge, SNES, no deaths. And people are like, I call bullshit in the thing. And the next comment is, this fucking sucks. The next one is, but seriously, this game is hard as shit. The next one is, are you using a turbo controller? I can never finish this fucking game. It's hard as shit. Like, that's all the comments of this game.
So this is 92, right? So I'm like, I'm under 10 years old. I'm a child, and I'm playing this game, and it's so hard. It's so hard, and I'm getting so frustrated because my motor skills are still kind of developing. And I'm Spider-Man. I'm a beloved franchise. I'm wearing Spider-Man underoos at the time, and I'm just really excited to be Spider-Man. My dreams are coming true. And I load this game up, and it's like, you're in a stupid fun house, and an exploding clown kills me, and then like a rolling pin kills me, and then I'm trapped in a pinball machine and that kills me. I just died over and over again. It was traumatic.
This is shit. This is like, okay, so remember in Contra, there was this one level where when someone spawned, as soon as they spawned, they shot a bullet that you couldn't dodge, and you always got hit by it, no matter how many times you loaded. And I was frustrated at the time because, games should be, if you have enough talent, you can get through without getting hit. The perfect gamer could somehow do it without ever getting hit. In this game, there's like a number of these where the guy's trying to dodge and you can't. Like, the bullet, if you crouch, it hits you in the head, and if you try to jump, it hits your foot. And he keeps getting hit by his crap. Anyway, that's horrible. Just bad design.
Yeah, it was a terrible game. But I had to bring it out because it was still when they were trying to make platformers. Like, I don't know, platformers are way more difficult to do well than people seem to give them credit for.
Yeah. Yeah, Nintendo kind of nailed that. They do pretty well. Like that, the Donkey Kong Country, the new one, Tropical Freeze. That's awesome. It's a great platformer. They just keep getting better. But yeah, there's something about it. You can definitely go wrong. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and this was one of those times.
Like Mega Man is awesome for that. Great tight controls, things that are very challenging, but you can get it once you try it a couple times. It's nice.
And then there was Arcade's Revenge, which just made me hate being an X-Men or Spider-Man.
It doesn't even look fun, David. It looks like there's nothing heroic about it, or like the storyline is like, oh, you got put inside of a fun house. Like that's not heroic. That's like, fuck. Like, it's not that's not a popcorn munch. You're not gonna,
But this was 92. Like, this was, if you wanted to play an X-Men or Spider-Man game on the Super Nintendo, this was what you had to do.
It's your option.
But in the same year, on the arcades, there was the X-Men game. Remember that one with Magneto? Like Children of the Atom, I think?
Yeah. That was a great game.
That game was fun. You could be Nightcrawler, and his special move was he would just phase through everybody, just teleport around through everybody and beat them all up. Yeah.
Dude, I love that game. I was always Nightcrawler.
Yeah, me too. That was my go-to guy on that arcade.
Oh, man. I remember that would cause, like, real fights. Because for some reason, everyone loved Wolverine, and I hated him. And his ultimate sucked. But everybody was like, oh, they're all waiting in line to play that one guy. And I was like, but nobody wanted to play Colossus. Because, this was back in, like, the 8 things arcade or 4, depending on which, box that you had.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a Nightcrawler, man. If someone was on that and they were just pumping in quarters, I'd be so mad. I'd be like, I'm only at this fucking arcade for so long, bitch. Get out.
See, I was the kid who didn't ever have quarters because I grew up super poor. You know how that is. Yeah. But like, so I would just watch this game through its loading screen repeat, where it'd be like Magneto's like They're like, oh no, Magneto, stop him, my X-Men, and then you get to pretend like you were playing while I did the demo for a while, and then it would repeat. And I just dreamed about what it would be like to play that game, but I never could.
It was a great game. This is back when I lived with my dad, so we had money. Yeah, I missed it. That was a great game. That was one of the best games of all time. I just played it, actually. We got it on the Wii U, I believe. Yeah, the Wii U, and we played it like crazy. I think it was a Wii U. Pretty sure. I don't think it was PlayStation.
X-Men: Children of the Atom. That was 1994. That game and also the Ninja Turtles Turtles in Time game was in the arcades at the same time, and those were both
That's
fun.
right. Yeah. Oh, good times. Oh man. But yeah. What else?
So then, moving to the late 90s, you had actually a good Spider-Man game?
Oh, it was 2000. It looks like 2000 exactly. Spider-Man. When they re-kicked off the series, I believe this is when the Tobey Maguire era, but Spider-Man 2 especially, the whole thing of this game is the web swinging. Like that is what nailed it. Because before that, we were just talking about like these shitty games where first of all you don't even have webs to swing off of. You shoot little pellets, like it's like a glorified Mega Man. But this game, not only could you web swing, because in Separation Anxiety and in how was one before that?
Maximum Carnage.
Maximum Carnage, you could web swing, which was cool, but it only moves. It's a side scroller, so you would just go, and you're just kind of like it's a different way to walk forward. It's not a big deal. But this game, you could like invest into your web swinging, make you faster. You could also do the web zip thing where you shoot two and pull yourself really hard and go super fast. You got one later, and then like it actually rewarded you for doing tricks and stuff because you could go down like a whole aerial kind of.
Yeah, you get like style points for the more like flips and gymnastics you did.
So just like an onlooker, someone who's just watching you play the game on the screen is just watching you just do the coolest shit. Like you're doing little flips and then little like layouts, where you're just kind of like flying.
Yeah, and you really felt like Spider-Man. You were looking for flagpoles to zip off of, or buildings to swing around, and like I remember after playing that game, it was on the GameCube for me, but it came out on the PS2. I'm talking about Spider-Man 2. I think was the one that I played the most.
Yeah,
but it was on a lot of systems. Xbox had it, but I remember after playing it for marathon sessions, I'd be in like a high school assembly, and I'd be looking around, and I'd be looking at like the gymnasium and being like, okay, if I were Spider-Man, I would shoot up to that girder and I'd flip over that, and I just kind of plan my movement through every room or through every area of an outside like college campus or something. Like, oh yeah, and I'd swing off of that building and then I'd stick onto that. Like I really just started seeing the world through Spider-Man eyes after playing Spider-Man 2, especially.
Yeah, I used to like when I was on the bus. We'd be driving and I'd be looking out the side window and I realized how shitty it would be if you lived in Mountain Home, Arkansas as Spider-Man because there's nothing to swing on. Yeah, but still, whenever you'd see one, you're like, oh, I do that one. It's hilarious, dude. But that game was it just nailed the whole web swinging thing, and the fights were fine. They were good. They weren't. The thing about Spider-Man combat in general, as opposed to many other superheroes, is that it's hard to get his combat down because the whole thing about Spider-Man is he's dynamic, and he uses his brain to fight people.
Yeah, and in a video game, you end up falling into like certain combos that you just repeat over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah, and like he's just I don't know, like an acrobat basically who has strong legs and kicks people. Basically, it. But
yeah. And that was a shift away from like the side-scrolling beat-em-ups to more of an open-world, almost Grand Theft Auto-esque. But now instead of being a petty car thief, you're Spider-Man, like fighting petty car thieves.
That's right. Yeah, you could stop like random like crimes and stuff in the street. I remember. Oh man, yeah, that was novel back then. You'd be swinging around and you see like a balloon go up, and you're like, oh, no, that was Ultimate. But on this one, you could see little fights going down on the ground, or like a random robbery, like you'd see a car chase, and you're like, oh. Holy hell! It was like a living city. You could shoot down there and get
this
people.
This was before Batman Arkham games had made that kind of standard. Like this was one of the first games I remember doing that.
It was awesome. You felt like Spider-Man in the city. Like you had this quest you needed to do to go somewhere to progress the story plot, but everything else was side missions. And this was like a novel idea at the time of this story line, plots, and stuff like that. So it really set the stage of like future games. So imagine the first game you've ever seen like that. People were losing their mind. That game was awesome.
They were. And what was great was we're talking like early 2000s now. We're kind of transitioning into more modern era games and taking it away from side-scrolling beat-em-ups and shitty platformers into these other genres of video games. And another genre that erupted that I would never have predicted was X-Men Legends came out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was weird. That's the top-down 4-player game, right?
Yeah, it was an action RPG, 4-player co-op. And so it's got RPG elements, like you're gaining new equipment, new gear, you're getting experience points, you're getting money, and you're leveling up. So like if you're Iceman, you can like level up your different abilities, like the ice slide.
You asshole.
Favorite.
You asshole. I hate that game. I played that game and I'm like, well, I think it was Deadpool or something.
Yeah, you were Nightcrawler first, and then we unlocked Deadpool.
Yeah, which like you get to teleport around and stuff, and it's really fun. But this game, there's a limited resources, right? It's not like Diablo nowadays, Diablo 3, where it drops your own loot and you get to take it, and then your friend only sees their loot, you only see yours, that kind of thing. This game, if something, or like XP and stuff, it was given to whoever got there first. So having a teleporting character was awesome until David unlocked the ice slide, which is fine. He would slide and then he'd fall down and walk, you know, like a pleb, like a fucking plebeian.
Yeah, because he used energy, so you couldn't just spam it.
Yeah, and I would teleport and he'd slide, and it was an even fun game, and everyone's having fun, and we're smiling, and all of a sudden,
because every piece of furniture in the room explodes in the credits, right?
Yeah, and so you know we just tear up every room, right? It's part of the fun.
And we make terrible superhero puns, like Tim would throw a chair at someone and be like, "Take a seat."
Yeah, yeah. So we're having a great time because everything's even, and David's wasting his talents for some reason into this ice slide thing, and I'm like, he's like, it gets a little.
I had no end game in mind. I just loved the ice slide. I thought it was the coolest way to move.
Yeah, and then eventually he's like, "Whoa, Jeremiah, you could ice slide forever." And I was like, "Oh, cool. You still have to ice slide to the furniture and beat it up and then get the money out of it, so that's fine." But no, the last talent on that talent tree was your ice slide does damage. So pretty soon, David, he's like that fat kid who gets stuck on the slide. He's not coming off that slide. You're just sliding, like hitting people, not really contributing that much to the damage, but enough to like
just
all the
furniture, the room exploding everything in my ice slide.
And then it goes super fast too. Like somewhere near the end of the talent tree made you go even faster because you were just like at the front of the screen, like, and we're trying to catch up, and I'm wasting my mana on like teleporting just to try to stay in the same.
And I was like, Bobby Drake, bitches.
And then from that point forward, me and Tim were just like, "Fuck this game, it's stupid." Because like, oh man, it was hilarious, but a fun game nonetheless.
Yeah, and then X-Men Legends 2 came out. And that one you actually shared resources, which, you know, no duh, that seems like a no-brainer now. Yeah. But so then the ice slide was a lot less frustrating.
Yeah.
Although I did take all the fun of blowing up bookshelves and chairs and stuff.
But that was a fun game. Like the quests were good. Like it felt like a different game. Like, you know, you'd be going through like there was themes to the levels. One you'd be outside, maybe the next one you're like in a lab.
Yeah,
you know,
it had Central Park.
Yeah, it had fucking shit that made sense. And the games before that really didn't, for the most part, except for Spider-Man 2, you know, and that kind of thing. But a lot of times, man, like Sinister Six, oh my god, you're like in this weird factory. It was dumb. People making these things had no idea what they were doing. But, yeah, man. Dude, we forgot one of the best games ever, though. If we're going to rank these later, this was going to be on my top 5
of
Marvel games. I'm not going to tell you guys. No, I'm kidding. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, dude.
Oh, yeah. Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
People play that today. That game is awesome. That was okay. So I go into the arcade, and this is in Oregon when I was a kid, right? I guess this would have been Texas. Yeah. Well, anyway, I was like 9 or 10 or some shit like that. Wait, I would have been like 13, 14, 15. Okay, anyway, whatever. I come in and I see this box that's new, and all these people are playing in there. People crowd around, people in line. And I'm like, what is happening? I see there's this fat kid with a whole sack of quarters. And I was like, what is going on? And what is this game? And I walked up, and it's Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I'm watching, like, this guy playing this, I think the people fighting was Magneto and Cable was his team, if I remember right. And the other guy was Spider-Man and Hulk. And I was like, this game is the shit. I mean, it's very stylized, like anime-ish. So the art was just amazing. The moves were absurd. Like, he was, Spider-Man's like all on the ground, like, like a Spider-Man would, and then like,
he's all crouching down.
Yeah, and he's like, he's shooting webs and swinging around, and like he's hard to hit because he's swinging around. Like I was just like, oh, this is shit. And then you switch over to Hulk, and it's like 100% different style. Like, he's tearing up the ground and throwing into people. Like it was amazing.
I know, and it had Capcom characters too, but who the fuck cared? It's like, oh, I can be Mega Man and Ryu? Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and now, let me see. Yeah, Dr. Doom, I think, is in... I'm mixing up 2 and 3. I believe it's 3 that just came out, but anyway, I played this shit
on the Dreamcast, I think, was where I played. It was like in 2000, and I would, and that was a whole new genre too. We'd moved into the street fighting kind of games.
Yeah. Man, that game was awesome. Anyway, okay, I'm going to stop gushing over that. I just remember my first experience with it, and then it just never faded. Anytime I go back into the arcade, and I think it was JT who got it on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
But someone I knew got it on the Dreamcast, and I just couldn't stop playing that fucking game. I'm not even like, I mean, I play fighters here and there, but I'm definitely not one of these combo fighters, like you need to be good at that game. I just loved playing it because of the characters in it, and the moves they did looked epic as fuck.
Yeah, and they do their ultimate moves and do this whole like cinematic scene. And that was the first time in a street fighting game I'd ever seen that. I don't know if it happened before, but remember it used to be just you fight until somebody's health bar goes down and then you win. But this game introduced a second bar that was like your special move, and you could do that. It was this whole big combo that's become pretty standard in street fighting games now.
That's a good point. I can't remember if it was that or Street Fighter Alpha that came out. Street Fighter Alpha was that anime version where you could be Evil Ryu and stuff. That had it too. But I can't remember which one came out first. It feels like they were around the same time because they were both on Dreamcast.
Yeah.
So
which was a console that was ahead of its time. If we ever do a console episode, Dreamcast was too pure for this world.
Yeah, yeah. That little screen inside of your controller was awesome. Like RPGs would take advantage of that by showing you your stats down there.
Yeah, how fun is that?
Good. That was a great idea. And the screen doubled as your like memory pack, so you could take it out and bring it to another guy's house and plug it in there, and you were good to go. It's like having your own game because it saved all on there. It was so smart.
It was so cool.
Jeez.
So there were a lot of Spider-Man games after the success of Spider-Man 2, like Ultimate Spider-Man, where you could play as Venom and you could just eat people, like to heal yourself. That was sick.
That game. Okay, so those comics that when it introduced, you read Ultimate. Yeah, we read it at the same time.
Yeah.
When they introduced Venom on that comic, I remember reaching the end of that comic and I was like, holy shit. It was like what you like that comic, and then the Green Goblin where they showed him, like this massive badass goblin type thing was awesome. And in that game, they just nailed Venom. It wasn't this Topher Grace screaming velociraptor bullshit. It was a big hulking scary thing that ate children. It was awesome. And so that's the feel you're supposed to get in a video game when you see Venom. Like you swing by, and I think he was on a rooftop, or maybe he's on the streets when you see him. But I want to say he was on the rooftop. And then, you fight him, and it feels like, he'll pop down and the little tendrils come out to get you. Like that was awesome. I was like, okay, this nailed Venom. It's so easy to screw him up. Apparently, I don't know how. Say we every once in a while and talk in a deep voice, and you pretty much got Venom. How you mess that up?
It's not too hard.
Oh man, great game though. Ultimate. I don't think I beat it. Who was the final boss? What was the whole point of the game?
I don't know. I beat it, but it's been a while. I remember renting it, and it's back when video rentals were kind of going out of fashion. It's one of the last games I rented.
I only asked because there's one that did something that I just fucking hate in Spider-Man games. Mm-hmm. So Spider-Man, the whole cool thing about him is he has mobility and he web swings and fights, right?
Uh-huh.
The only way to make that shitty is two things. One, put him in the water, right? You can't do anything. That would suck. Yeah, I would not even like reading that comic. It would suck. Wouldn't want to play that game. Or put him in the sky. Why the fuck? One of those games, you're like swinging around and there's like little orbs you have to, hit with your webs. I can't remember exactly. It could have been like Web of Shadows or something, but I remember I was just so frustrated because I'm trying to fight this person. Like the whole Spider-Man comic, there's even a guy named not Buzzard. Eagle? Buzzard?
Yeah, the
Vulture.
Yeah. The Buzzard.
The only thing he could do is fly. Like now they have him with like razors on his wings, but that wasn't the case before. He was just flying. And the whole reason that made him why he was such a bad person to fight was because Spider-Man can't do shit in the air, right? Like if he's above the skyline, he can't do anything, and that's what they would do. So why would you? And so it's got to be frustrating for Spider-Man to fight that guy, and because his only power is to fly a little higher than the rooftops, and then
yeah.
Away.
Just to be kind of annoyingly out of the way with like bags of money with little dollar signs on them.
Yeah, falling out. Like that was this is a real bad guy for him. So don't make a game where you're flying around and it's frustrating to web swing because I'm not losing the game because I'm not being Spider-Man enough. I'm losing the game or because I'm not winning a fight. I'm losing the game because my webs aren't attaching to anything and I keep falling and it's like you got to get back to the top. I can't remember the bad guy, but it sucked. There's games that nail it. like the beginning of was it Web? No, I don't think it was Web of Shadows. I can't remember, but it was the guy who makes spiders, Smythe. Um, Some Smythe, Sylvester Smythe or something. Anyway, the spider comes out, and you've got to like swing around. Remember this one? Was it? Damn, which one was it? It might have been. Oh no, I remember what it was. It was the one that just came out a while ago that actually sucked. That was based on the first the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man, and Amazing Spider-Man.
That starts awesome and then gets shitty for the rest of the game. But yeah, you fight this like spider thing. So you're flying around. It's like striking at you, and it's like all based on how well you can. And you can freeze time and point at something, shoot it, and zip towards it. Mm-hmm. That was an awesome fight. That nails it. You know what doesn't nail it is being in the sky and you have nothing to web swing on, so you keep falling down to the water. Or you're wet, and you're like, oh, I suck because it's not even over land. Like, what the?
Or do you remember 90s Spider-Man games where you had a limited amount of web fluid and you had to conserve it?
Yeah, don't do that. That's like on that game you were just talking about. What's that X-Men one that sucked and that was super hard?
Oh yeah, Arcade's Revenge.
Yeah, Arcade's Revenge. Oh, Gambit in that game had limited cards. Don't do that. Why do you do that? That's so shitty.
You don't need to be like, this is the one concession to realism. They're like, well, he is fighting robot clowns in a giant arcade machine, but it would be weird if he had more than 52 cards in his deck.
Like, we don't need to, like, we can just assume that Gambit has some notion of how many cards he has, or how many cards he's going to need on a certain mission. Even if you don't, it's a pack of cards. They're 52 for this much, for like an inch. You could pack hundreds of them. I would just line the inside of my
yeah,
duster.
Same with Spider-Man. Like, yeah, we get it. He usually has, like, running out webbing is a recurring plot element in Spider-Man comics, but it's not fun. Just assume he has enough web cartridges for the mission.
Yeah, like it makes an interesting story, but not a game, because then you have to go back and refill it at whatever web station. It doesn't make you like craft it with the materials and go to the store and buy it. Like there's a level of abstraction you're already getting.
And they ended up just abstracting it by being like, and then sometimes web fluid drops from bad guys you beat up. It's like, oh, okay, that's super realistic. Good job, guys.
And that's why I don't understand people's butthurtness about the organic organic webbing. Like people got really in the Ultimate series when in the comic and in the game,
and in the Tobey Maguire movies.
In the movies, it was like organic, and people were losing their shit. They're like, no, that's too much. And I'm like, are you joking me? How does this motherfucker climb a building with clothes on? Shut up. Like, if anything, he should have to take his gloves off to use it because they're tiny little hooks, right? To go through that material. And it
was just a weird arbitrary line. Like, you got all the abilities of a spider except for the most spidery ability. Like, like, it's fine.
So, I thought it was weird, but I easily, once I made that mental assessment, I was like, yeah, that's pretty dumb for me to draw the line there. Anyway, and then I got used to it. But people got really upset, and when they brought it back in Amazing, they were like, thank you. And I was like, come on, you could still run out of fluid, right? Like if it's organic, you just be like, oh, I guess my spinnerets are out. Oops. So you can have all the same elements. It's just a cooler way to do it. I don't know. I don't know, cooler, but yeah, I don't know. Because why else would you call yourself Spider-Man? You can climb a wall. Lizards can climb a wall. Like the whole, he gave himself webs, but that was unnecessary. He could have just been wearing a big old floppy lizard suit,
Well, that's why Stan Lee originally was going to name him Flyman, because he was just watching a fly walking up a wall, and he's like, that'd be cool to have a superhero that could climb on walls. It'll be the Flyman. And then eventually that turned into Spider-Man, because the Flyman is just ridiculous.
That is not the coolest part about Spider-Man. Like, whenever, if you wall crawl, it's fun, like in games. Oh, what was that game that you were in a bank, and you were crawling on the ceiling above people, and you could drop down and fight them?
Yeah, that was one of the Spider-Man games too. I think it was.
Oh, was it? Okay, that was a great. Like that made wall crawling fun.
Yeah,
and then when you run up
the wall, because you would you drop down, like web people up on the ceiling, and you try and do it without the other guys knowing you're in there.
Yeah, that was fun. And then like running up the side of a building, to get your momentum going. That was fun.
The Game Boy Spider-Man, where you're just climbing up a building, and the Spire Sense would go off, and you have to move to the left or right to dodge whatever's falling.
God. So stupid. Like you can't see above you. Anyway.
Yeah. So then Marvel Ultimate Alliance came, and it took what X-Men Legends did, and it added all the Marvel characters instead of just the X-Men. So then you could be Spider-Man teamed up with Thor and Wolverine and Iron Man.
Yeah, that was a great game. Okay, so maybe that was the one we played, Deadpool in the ice slide. Was it?
No, you played Deadpool in X-Men Legends 2. He was an unlockable character. And then in X-Men or in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, I think you went for Iron Man at first with the initial characters.
I think so too. And I tried Hulk for a little bit, but it's hard. The only game that nailed Hulk was Hulk Ultimate Destruction on the GameCube.
Yeah.
That game got it. Like, other than that, you run around, you're punching and stuff. Or actually, again, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it nailed it. Like, when you're fighting as Hulk, you feel like Hulk. Like, you're this big old brooding thing, but like you run at people and you're like, oh, you grab them or you tear the ground up. That's fun. But in a lot of the games, it's just so stupid. Like that one based on that shitty 2000 version of Hulk before Ed Norton. Can't remember who the guy who played it.
The Ang Lee one.
Ang Lee, yeah, that one sucked, and the game sucked. And but the thing that makes Hulk fun is running up, jumping, climbing buildings by just throwing your hands into them. Like, you could do that in the game. You could pick up tanks and throw them. You could pick up anything and throw it. It was just this. It nailed that idea of Hulk. But yeah, the Ultimate Alliance didn't so much. You want to get this. I don't know. You want to feel like you're just this massive Hulk, like you're just tearing shit up and throwing it at people and breaking people in half and stuff, tearing things apart. Like, you're just this weird kid in a temper tantrum, basically, but the shit is real.
One of my favorite memories of Ultimate Alliance, though, was with Captain America. He had this move where he could throw his shield and would ricochet off of everybody and come back to his hands. And he had another move, like he had a throw move where he would grab somebody, knock them to the ground, and then take his shield up and kind of like try and decapitate the robot with it.
Yeah.
And there's one time where I pulled it off. I was playing Captain America, and I threw the shield. Actually, it was my roommate was playing Captain America. He threw the shield. It was bouncing around. Then he initiated that throw move, and he throws him on the ground. And then as his arms go up, like the character's supposed to be raising the shield, but hasn't come back yet. So as his arms reach the apex above his head, the shield lands back in his hand, and he chops off the robot's head with it. It was perfectly timed. It was amazing.
That's what makes that RPG that we'll probably touch on here in a minute so fun, is that shit like that you come up with in your head.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, previously, I feel like they didn't even... Like, you may even want to go this hand. You may even want to get a Hollywood fight coordinator to plan what your superheroes do. Because that's half the fun of playing the game, is pulling off crazy shit that only that superhero could do. Like, Wolverine's going to be bent over, right? And he's just going to he's going to tear through shit. And you want to be fast and lethal and, and little ball of hell jumping at something, right? You want Hulk to be this big guy who slams shit. And so if you see, Hulk slapping someone or kicking someone, you're like, that's not really what Hulk does, and Captain America needs to do cool shit like that. That's smart, man, these games. Because if you pull off stuff like that, then you feel it. The whole point is you're playing into a fantasy of this idea of this guy who can throw a shield and is an ultimate fighter, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and if you don't nail that, then you're missing a huge chunk of your game.
Yeah, that goes into the strength of the superhero genre that we'll talk about, is having such a variety of power sets and personalities that you could cater to literally any kind of style of gameplay you like. Just there's a hero that does that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that can move us into unless there's some more recent ones you can talk about.
Yeah, there's a few recent ones. I'm just going to touch on them because it emphasizes how versatile this genre is, because we've done fighting games, we've done platformers, we've done beat 'em ups, we've done open world kind of like Spider-Man in New York kind of games, we've done action RPGs, and then they kind of went into the free-to-play world. There was a Facebook game called Marvel's Ultimate Avengers or Ultimate Alliance, Avengers Alliance, I think it was called, and then there was even a Marvel puzzle game. Have you seen that?
I've heard of it.
Puzzle Quest.
Yeah.
So it's like Puzzle Quest, which was it's basically matching colors. It's like Bejeweled, but with RPG elements, and so it's brought Marvel into that. Then there was Lego Marvel, hugely popular franchise, where it's the Lego versions of all your characters, and you're getting to solve puzzles using your powers. Like, you might see a fire and you can switch to Iceman and put it out, or you might see a bridge falling apart, but Spider-Man can rope it together so that Captain America can slide down the rope swing or whatever. So that I thought that game was interesting just for the puzzle elements, and it was kind of aimed at younger gamers and kind of helping them think about how to solve things.
Yeah.
And then there was Marvel Contest of Champions on the iPhones right now, and Android, which is basically a handheld version of it's kind of like what's the DC Comics fighting game that you like?
Oh, Injustice.
Yeah, it's like Injustice, but with Marvel.
That game is great.
There was Disney Infinity, which my nephews really like, where you just put the Spider-Man and Venom or whoever you want on the thing, and you just play whichever character you're playing as like the little figures. And then finally, last but not least, Marvel Heroes, which is a free-to-play kind of Diablo multiplayer game.
Oh yeah, we've been playing some of that.
So tons of different genres just happening all over the place.
Well, that's one of the arguments, is that people say that in films, at least, that superhero is a genre and not like a backdrop or a fad or a type.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about how to classify it, because to me, superhero is almost like a genre, and then there's several subgenres inside of it. Because you'll have Ant-Man, which is a superhero movie, but also a heist movie. You'll have Captain America, the first Avenger, which is like a World War II period piece movie, that's also a superhero movie. You'll have Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a sci-fi superhero movie. You'll have The Avengers, which is like your standard, action adventure superhero movie. There's what else? There's go for it.
The whole Spider-Man series in general, I think, is more of a realist. I don't know. Like it. I heard someone say this once, and I thought it was brilliant. They said, when I first draw to Spider-Man, right? Because I've always been curious of why Spider-Man was my favorite superhero growing up, and why my mom loved it so much, why so many people loved it. And this guy was saying that he thinks it's because he's the only one that allows our voyeuristic self to see inside of the life. He's the only one that we get to see the collateral damage of being a superhero for, right? Like Iron Man has now started touching on that, and a couple other genres have tried. But when he first came out in the 60s or the 70s, I think it was 60s, he was already doing that. It was a look into the life of a kid who's trying to juggle life along with everything else, and people are getting upset with him. He's dropping shit at school, like he forgot a science project, all because he's a superhero and he can't tell anyone. So I would say it's almost like I wouldn't say a reality show, but it's like
it's like a teen kind of coming of
Dawson's
age.
Creek, kind of thing. It's a whole, like they said, I forget who said this. I think it might have been Stan Lee or someone who works at Marvel, but they said in a Spider-Man movie or comic, you want it to be 50% Peter Parker, 50%, or no, he said like 80 or 90% Peter Parker, 10% tights or something like that. It was this large difference. Like, we actually want to see more of the life of the kid, what it would be like, because that taps into the fantasy of us being a superhero. Like, what would I do in my downtime?
Yeah, and that's kind of what, to me, I was trying to figure out why I like Spider-Man better than Batman, because they're both perfectly great heroes. They both have big fan bases. They both have great video games. But why does Spider-Man appeal to me more? And to me, it's because I could be Peter Parker. Like, we've all been that kind of nerdy, smart kid with the, the glasses growing up.
Yeah.
But I could never be Bruce Wayne. And Spider-Man's story is mostly about Peter Parker. Even when he puts the mask on, he's still Peter Parker inside. Whereas Bruce Wayne is just a character that Batman invents to make people know he's not Batman. He's not really that interesting, or we don't spend a lot of time as Bruce Wayne. It's mostly just being Batman. So it's less relatable.
Where was that at that quote that you talked about, where he says the thing about when I think about myself?
Yeah, that was in Batman Beyond. When he said, when Bruce Wayne, someone's trying to make Bruce Wayne think he's crazy, and he's putting these voices in his head, like, this is when Bruce Wayne's an old man, and he's like, Bruce, jump off the building, Bruce, kill yourself, Bruce. And then Terry McGinnis, the new Batman, was like, how'd you know you weren't crazy? And he's like, well, because I know I'm not crazy. And then Terry's like, I hope your second reason's better than the first. And he's like, well, because the voice in my head kept calling me Bruce. And he's like, yeah, so? And he's like, that's not the name I use for myself.
Yeah, that's such a cool moment. Oh, man. It's interesting, though. But yeah, it concentrates on him outside of the suit. And it's fascinating. Like, Tony Stark is not particularly interesting outside of his suit. Like,
right.
The new comics or the new movies with Robert Downey Jr. is funny because he's so quick-witted. But that's just Robert Downey Jr. in general. If you've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, or just him in general talking to people, that's him. He's just this kind of quick-witted. Charismatic. Yeah, so me falling in love with Tony Stark was the character Tony Stark was about his Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal. If it was anyone else, I would have been like, meh. But yeah, the quick-wittedness of Robert Downey Jr. is what does that. But with Peter Parker, I'm invested in his whole story. Like, oh, is he gonna get together with Mary Jane, or what's going on with that? Like, I just give a shit. Like, I hope Aunt May doesn't find out. That kind of thing. But
yeah, so it's a very versatile, because there's so many different kinds of heroes. You can make so many different kinds of movies and games based around those heroes. Like, I would love to see a Mega Man kind of game where you're Rogue. I was reading about this on I think Kotaku. Someone was talking about pitching this game where you start off as Rogue. You don't have you just have your leeching power, right? But as you go through, you steal super strength from Miss Marvel. You steal flight from Miss Marvel. You steal as you beat bosses, you permanently drain their powers and just get this whole big power set at the end.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and that lends itself right away to a video game. Because in a video game, you're often trying to get think of Link or Zelda. When you're Link and you're running around, you need to get that hook shot to get to the next section. So
right, it would unlock the areas. It'd be or like a Mega Man game where now I've got this person's weakness. I can use this power against him.
Yeah.
So there's so many different styles of games you can make based on different heroes, and then also role playing games, because we were talking about D&D is kind of our go-to RPG, right, for tabletop.
Yeah.
But with D&D, the rules are very out there and they're very specified. It's very specific. Here's how much you can carry. Here's how much you can drag. Here's how much damage you're gonna do with a great axe. Here's how far a bow can shoot. There's a rule for everything. It's we call it simulationist almost, right?
Yeah.
But then we played the Marvel role playing game by I think it was Hickman, the publishing company.
Okay.
But it was a totally different mechanic, because instead of having rules for everything, it was very abstract and story based. So the way you would do is you'd have a dice pool. So let's say a Sentinel was trying to smash Wolverine with his boot. So he'd be like, okay, well, the Sentinel's fighting alone. His solo dice is a D6. So we put a 6-sided dice in there. He's just doing his duty. That's a D8. He gets that. He's got superhuman strength. Superhuman is a D10. He's got superhuman durability. We'll put that in there. That's a D10. And he's a combat expert. That's a D8. So he'd roll all those dice and get a certain number and an effect dice. And then Wolverine can respond he's solo, he's good at that, he gets a D10. He gets I'm the best at what I do, that's a D8. He gets godlike stamina, that's a D12. He gets adamantine claws, that's a D10, and combat master, that's a D10. He rolls his dice, and then you have all these different dice pools going against each other, and you kind of make a narration about how that works.
Yeah.
What it looks like in the game, because he could slice through the boots, he could get crushed by it. There's so many different ways you could do it.
Yeah, that was intelligent.
And we played a Spider-Man and Moon Knight team up that way, where we just and it felt like those two characters in a fight. We're just fighting kingpins, street level cartel guys, but it was fun.
Yeah, because you got to make up your moves and what you were doing. And I love Moon Knight because he's fucking insane. He's just a cool character to play. Yeah, because he's constantly in the comic, at least the new one. I'm not so sure about the old one. The newer one, he's constantly battling his own inner demons and his own self doubts and the fact that he's psychotic, or so he thinks, or so he might be. The comic, I guess Marvel in general, never lets you know, at least in this storyline, whether he's actually seeing this moon god or whether he's not. Or it hints at both. Because he does take antipsychotic pills, but that's also because he has PTSD and he had these pop-ups, and which isn't necessarily true how that works. But anyway, I won't get too much psychology into it. But he takes those and then he stops taking them whenever he becomes empowered and feels that he wants to be Moon Knight. But he does see the god Krishnu, I think it's Krishnu, the moon god, while he's really out of it, and he's boozing and stuff. He's mixing all these chemicals he shouldn't, so it never lets you know. I love the idea of that, and the fact that because he landed on a car one time, and he said he rips it open. He says something to him, and they say, "Oh my God, what are you going to do?" And he goes, "That's not for me to decide." And then he waits, and then he goes, Krishnu says that you must die or something like that, and he kills him. So then you're like, "Oh, dude." If there is a moon god and that vengeance needs to be satiated, sure, maybe it has some higher plan. If not, this psychopath is just killing people based on voices in his head. It's nuts, and he's brutal, dude.
He's basically Marvel's Batman taken up to 11 as far as the mental instability goes.
Yeah, so playing him in that game was really fun, because especially as Spider-Man, you were like, "Hey man, let's just web them up," and I was like, snap their neck or something. It just so happened to tickle my fancy if I thought it would make a fun move. was just cool.
Yeah, and it's open. Like what I liked about it too is that because it was so abstract, you could have team ups like Thor and Black Widow on the same team, and it wouldn't feel like Black Widow was useless. Because under a standard D&D model, Thor would have been like a level 20 god, and Black Widow's like a level 8 thief or something, right?
Yeah.
But in this game, it's like, oh, cool. So you just get different dice and different pools. Like Kitty Pryde's got some things she can do that are interesting, and you could also be the Silver Surfer and just be good at everything. But either way, it's going to be an interesting fight because it's less about the stats and more about the story you're telling.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun part of that. And honestly, in general, I like Marvel way better than I do DC. Did you know that they faced off a few times in the past?
Yeah,
like,
they've even
heroes.
teamed up.
Yeah, like I didn't know this. Aquaman fought Namor, which is, it's a twin, basically.
Yeah.
And Aquaman won, I guess, by crushing Namor with a whale. Okay, that's weird. Elektra fought Catwoman, and I think, let me see, Elektra won because she cut her whip. Flash beat Quicksilver because he was faster, I guess, which solves that problem. And people debate about that. Robin fought Jubilee, which is weird, the two kid wonders, I guess. And Robin won because he used his cape as a decoy. Okay. Silver Surfer versus Green Lantern. They collided, exploded. Apparently Green Lantern got knocked out. But the biggest one that I think is most important, well, there's others too, like Thor fought Captain Marvel. Superman fought Hulk, though. So the big internet debate apparently happened. And I had no idea. Superman, he beat him with a one punch knockout. But a couple things. One, Hulk gets angrier the madder he is, and he wasn't angry. He was in his form. Remember where Bruce Banner turned into the Hulk, but he retained his intellect?
Mm-hmm.
There's like this
World War Hulk?
Yeah, there's like this Professor Hulk era or Smart Hulk era which is dumb because his biggest enemy, the Abomination, that was his whole thing. The Abomination, it retained all of his intelligence. He was a Russian scientist. But he gained the form, which made him an interesting bad guy because he could never get as strong as the Hulk because he couldn't get angry enough, which would fuel his powers. But in general, he was stronger than the Hulk, and he could outthink him. He would set traps for him. So whenever it was like this whole Professor Hulk era, I was like, I don't think you understand what makes Hulk cool. But anyway, but the point is, when he was Professor Hulk, he didn't have his max strength, right? He was just kind of this super powerful guy, but he could still lift a building or something, but he couldn't punch a planet in half like he did in World War Hulk. When Tony Stark kicked him off the Earth and kicked him out of the Earth, and then he found out that he was betrayed, he punched a planet in half. Like, come on, give me a break. That guy can beat Superman. Fuck you. Anyway, so Superman beat him, but because he knew he had to hit him once, and that one time had to put him out, or else he was fucked. So he hit him while he was all smart and normal and not angry, like a piece of shit. And he punched him, knocked him out. Not that I'm sour about it.
Oh, yeah.
They definitely have almost a decade, if not more, of fighting this verbally with people. I'm like, no, Hulk can't be beat because if you get hit, he gets stronger. And then they're like, well, but Superman just frees him with his ice. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's never fought anyone with ice rays. Bobby Drake, maybe. Maybe he punch him out of existence in World War Hulk. Pretty sure that happened. Anyway,
so there was another crossover where they actually fused all the heroes. So Batman and Wolverine became Wolverine Batman fusion. It was weird.
Oh,
yeah. Google image that. You'll see all the DC and Marvel characters just fused into single superheroes.
That sounds fun. Whoa! Did you know Batman fought Captain America?
I saw that on Death Battle on YouTube. Did that actually happen?
Yeah, it says the match ended in uncertainty, but though both are evenly matched after hours of combat, a sudden flushing of the sewer knocks Cap off balance. As Batman manages to strike him with a batarang, Batman rescues Cap from certain death via drowning, but Cap's unconsciousness from nearly drowning causes him to lose. Fuck that. Captain America beat Batman. It's the same thing as always. If Batman's prepared and he knows, I'm sure he's going to make an anti-Cap fucking batarang or some shit, right?
Or an anti-super soldier serum that would take away all his powers.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about if you're just hanging out and they get in a disagreement and then all of a sudden they fight, Captain America smoke the shit out of Batman. He can fight awesome, but he's also got superpowers. So one punch, if he connected, would hurt Batman a lot more than Batman hitting Captain America 100 times. He got that shield. He got that shield that he never misses. It would just be like, clank, there's your face, bro. Okay. Anyway, not that I'm a fanboy of Marvel, but I am.
It's true, you are. But okay, so we've got a genre of games, these Marvel games. They're just going into every subgenre. We've got puzzlers, we've got platformers, we've got fighting games, so many action RPGs. What is it about Marvel that's made them so adept at just finding niches in the market and making quality games, and a lot of shitty games too, but
Yeah, a
quality
lot
games as well? Like, what's going on? Is there any kind of psychology here,
of Marvel in particular.
or just like why is this working?
Oh,
Why do we love it?
I mean, it could be a couple things. First of all, there's if you're exposed to something over and over and over again, it becomes like the attraction thing. Have you heard about this? Like, there's ways to increase the chance that you're gonna have someone develop romantic feelings for you, and one of those is propinquity, which means like proximity. I don't know why they use that term,
Oh yeah,
but yeah, you've heard about those studies, right? And
yeah.
and there's been some recent like kind of questionable things about that, but for the most part, it does hold up to replication. But the second one was just mere exposure. Like the more someone sees someone, the more they begin to part of familiarity. Whenever you see someone that you know, there's like this little buzz of happiness that happens in our head, right? Like
So familiarity breeds contempt. Isn't that exactly true?
yeah, that's bullshit. That's like absence makes the heart grow fonder. No, it doesn't. Or that's not what the data suggests. But so one of them is familiarity. So if you're in, like, let's say you're abroad, or you're in a distant city or something like that, and all of a sudden you see someone you know, there's this little buzz that happens where you go, oh, I know that guy. Or you're at the subway or something, or wherever you're at, and you turn around and you see someone you know. That's actually a happy feeling you get. So our brain gets a little confused whenever we see someone that we're familiar with repeatedly, right? Or we become familiar with someone, we actually confuse that little buzz with happiness. Well, it is kind of happiness, but we think it's because we like that person. But it's not so much the case as it is you're just familiar with them.
So like if you have a Jim and Pam situation at work, like even though she's engaged, eventually she's be like, you know what, I think I like Jim actually.
Yeah, she spends more time at work than home, sure. That kind of thing. So it could just be just mass. They put out so many that over time our feeling of, we no longer come to it like it's a superhero movie. We're just like, oh, it's a blockbuster. Or maybe we do a superhero movie, but you're more open to it. Whereas if the first pitch was Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't think it would have gotten the funding it got. Because it's, they're like, what is this? Oh, it's a superhero movie. What's a superhero movie? Oh, it's this. Or a superhero game. But at its base, of course they're going to work. I don't understand why this didn't happen sooner. I mean, I guess the 90s was kind of an explosion, but in video games in general, so maybe that's it. But in movies, the same thing. Dude, you put a little figurine of a superhero, and we're going to go apeshit about it as a kid because that's awesome. Like, we get to pretend to be a superhero, right? Even by proxy, by holding this little thing. But if you're in a video game and you get to, like, web swing, are you joking me? Of course that's going to do well. Like, it helps, and I think that's why superhero movies are so popular. It helps overcome a lot of shit because of the novelty of seeing a character in that position. Like, imagine Captain America Winter Soldier, if it wasn't Captain America movie. If it was like a James Bond movie. It wouldn't be that good.
Yeah, it would have been like a Jason Bourne movie.
Yeah, the Winter Soldier thing, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Now he's his enemy. It's Bucky. Okay. Yeah. Yay. Yeah, it's not that interesting. But seeing Captain America in that role. And, okay, another effect that I think is happening is like, you know how like you watch a sitcom and you don't laugh for the first couple? Mm-hmm. And then people like wait till you get to know the characters, then it becomes funny.
Right.
That's what happens in superhero movies. You get that whole backstory of who they are. So when they're set in a new setting, like Captain America when he had to betray, or when the government was against him, that's interesting because it's Captain America and we know all of his history and even his jokes and stuff.
Movies like Suicide Squad weren't able to give you that background on each character, so you ended up not really caring if Boomerang was, now he's a free criminal. Let's see what he does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think that's a huge part of it. Like imagine in the very beginning of Avengers 2, where Captain America goes language, and then he's like fuck that or something like that, right? That's funny because of those two characters and the fact that we know them. If it was Joe Schmo and Super Billy or something like that, you'd be like, that's weird. I guess they're trying to set up some kind of conflict. I don't know. Anyway.
I think that's what's going on with video games is, remember we've talked before about how movement is the unsung hero of what makes a game fun?
Oh
The way you move through a scenario, the way you move through the environment. And with superhero games, you have so many options for movement. Like the most fun part about Marvel Heroes for me was when you get to level 10, you get your travel power. Like, are you going to get a motorcycle? Are you going to get web slinging? Are you going to get flight? That's fun. Or I was playing one of the X-Men games on the GameCube. It was like one of them that took place between the movies. And one of the characters you could be was Nightcrawler. And the way they did his teleporting mechanic was, it was kind of like Dishonored, where you would just like see, you would stop time, you would see where you want to go, and then you'd click on it, and then it would unfreeze, and you'd pop over there.
Yeah.
And so I was just like popping around all over the place. I had so much fun just teleporting as Nightcrawler. So I think, and ice slides, flight, teleportation, like there's so many different ways of going from point A to point B that it's just a very interesting way of navigating a world that you can explore with different superheroes.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's yeah. I was thinking to a smaller degree. There's also seeing superheroes fight. Like there's this big question of who would beat who whenever you read, because back in the day, comics crossovers was the thing, right? Like X-Men was in and of itself a multiple superhero comic, but for the most part, it was Superman, it was Spider-Man, it was whoever, and it's their world. And then occasionally they started bringing in other people doing a crossover, like, oh, look, it's Wolverine and Spider-Man. That's cool. I guess they'd meet. That makes sense. But in movies, a lot of times it's multiple superheroes, or at least you see another superhero somewhere in there, and games, and that you get to see the interaction, or sometimes they fight, and you're like, oh, this is cool. I want to see this. I don't know. I think there's some of that going on too.
Yeah, that's why the Civil War and X-Men versus Avengers crossover comics are always like big sellers for Marvel, because people like to see them fight.
Yeah. Plus, you get to see like in X-Men versus Avengers, you get to see like the Phoenix Force spread out to 5 of the X-Men. That's just cool.
Yeah,
it's a lot of these what if scenarios that you never really thought about, I guess. Where we've already explored those all on human beings. Like, oh, what if a human gets absolute power? There's a million movies and games like that, right?
Mm.
But what happens if Magneto gets ultimate power? Well, that's something we haven't talked about. So that, and I think it's just cool to be a nerd now. Like, I honestly wonder if that's an insult and for kids.
Like nowadays, like you'll have the super hot girl in high school who's like, she's wearing an Avengers jacket and she's like, oh, I'm such a nerd, and it's like it's a little bit self-deprecating, but also it's saying like, but it's cool now, it's fine.
Yeah, and like all the activities that made us nerdy, like playing video games and reading comics and that kind of thing, now is standard. Like kids having like an iPhone or an iPad at school, even like 5 and 6 year olds are having this. They're playing video games, So I kind of just wonder what makes you a nerd nowadays. Anyway, that's for a different podcast. But Marvel games, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they're so popular. I don't understand. I think it's got to be versus, because if I think it's about it versus DC, I think they just have a more interesting cast of characters. Personally, I know it's a big fight, so I'm not saying the definitive answer. But so for me, I think that, and I feel like the writers were more progressive at the time, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, they've tackled social issues from day one, like with the X-Men and stuff. It's always been about like standing up for the minorities and the little guy, and like sticking up for people who don't have any power.
Yeah. Wait, you know what I think it might be actually? Marvel tend to their games or movies, and I say in general, are aimed at a large family-friendly audience, and the DC is kind of doing this dark, gritty thing. And they're ever since back in the Michael Keaton days of Batman, they've always done like this kind of dark, more young adult or adult oriented thing. So you don't have your kids. Well, I mean, I guess you do have kids wearing Batman versus Superman on their shirts, but rarely. It's more usually Marvel.
Yeah. But even now, like, look at the 2 Ryan Reynolds superhero movies. You've got like a goofy CGI, kid-friendly Green Lantern, and you've got Daredevil, which you cannot bring kids into the theater for.
Or Deadpool.
Deadpool. Yeah. But but look at Daredevil on Netflix too, and Jessica Jones. Like, those are really dark and gritty as well. Like, Marvel goes into every genre. That's why I think their strength is. It's like, yes, DC tends to be kind of one feel, one theme.
Yeah,
but Marvel can do like gritty, like city level, like Kingpin
or Punisher.
Yeah, Punisher and Daredevil, or it can do like goofy space comedies like Guardians of the Galaxy or heist movies. Like, it's just they seem to be, I don't know if it's because of the characters or the writers, but in video games, in movies, they seem to be more versatile, where you can have like a puzzle quest and a street fighting game, both as popular free to play iPhone games that are both making a lot of money.
Yeah. Yep. I think maybe they just have a better marketing team and or investment. They seem to be investing a lot in big franchises. Like I heard, there was a movie that they lost money on. Maybe it was Avengers 2. But some recent movie they actually lost money on. I remember thinking, how the hell? That was a huge movie. But they were like, that's fine. It's an investment into our brand. You're going to have pitfalls here and there, but as long as you keep cranking out stuff and they're overall really good, then you're set.
Right.
So maybe it's just that. I don't know.
So closing question. I got two. What's your favorite or at least top 3 Marvel games? And my other one, which is probably going to be an easier one, so you could do it first, is who's your favorite Marvel hero?
Oh, that's not easier, David. I don't. That's like saying who's my favorite kid. I mean, it's Elijah, but if it wasn't, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No,
it's the dog. It's the corgi.
I'll have to say like top 3, really. Fuck.
All right.
I want to say Gambit because I have a long history of liking Gambit. Because he's funny and he's like kind of this suave kind of dude, but you find out in the comics that he's got kind of a shitty past, and a lot of it's just he's just grandstanding. I like that. Plus, he can make anything blow up, and he picks cards. That's fucking awesome. But do I play him first in all the games that I can choose him? No. I'll try him first, but he's not my favorite in all the games because he's not that powerful. I don't know. So I like him. Spider-Man's my all-time favorite for the most part. God damn it. Moon Knight is really interesting. David, you're the worst. It's not easy. I don't know, dude. What about you?
Yeah.
Hulk, obviously.
My go-to number 1, Spider-Man, is just my first love as far as heroes go. And, there's just something about a wisecracking, like the fact that he tells jokes when he's nervous and like to cover his own fears. Like it really resonated with me as like this kid who's just like, yeah, I just use my mouth to get myself out of trouble because I don't have much else going for me but my wit.
Or it gets you into worse trouble, but it doesn't matter. Like I would insult people who would try to mess with me, like would be picking on me. I would be talking shit to them, which made it worse and more likely that they're going to swing on me. But it's like I couldn't help it. So in the Ultimate storyline where Spider-Man, remember he goes up against the Kingpin and he pulls out these little
index cards full of bad jokes.
He's like, no, that one doesn't work. Even as he's swinging at him, and it shows his thought bubble, and he says, "Wow, if one of these hits me, I'm done for. One of these fists, And he goes, but I can't let these, or I can't just throw these cards away. I worked so hard on them. So, oh man, when I saw that, yeah, that was definitely resonated with me.
And then, if we're doing 3, I have to say I love Nightcrawler because he's got this whole like swashbuckling Errol Flynn like idealization where he's got a really flashy power set, like the ability to like teleport is really fun for me, but he's also like way into swashbuckling, so he fences and he's like flopping around swinging off chandeliers, so it kind of combines like a cool move set with like something I've always been a fan of. Like in D&D I always want to play a swashbuckler. Yeah,
you grew up reading this Count of Monte Cristo, and who's the guy who wrote those? Dumas. Yeah.
And so I like Errol Flynn. Plus he's like he's a priest, but he looks like a demon, and he's got this whole like that kind of tension there where people like kicked him out of his village in Germany because they thought he was a devil child, but he's got this redemption. So I like Nightcrawler, and also Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat. She's got like a power set that seems underwhelming at first, but she makes it work to be like really powerful as she gets trained. She gets trained by Logan to be like a samurai. She can phase through electronics and like mess them up, but she's also a hacker. So she's just got like a non-conventional kind of power set that I find really interesting to make stories around.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. So that's 2, right?
Well,
no, you said
Spider-Man number 1 for sure.
I don't know, dude. I have these phases. I go through phases, so it's hard for me to say. But top games, I definitely have to say Spider-Man 2 is on there. And partly because it was the first thing to do GTA feel, like that open world, quests wherever you go kind of thing. and add it with a superhero genre. Now it's kind of, Batman scratches that. I'm gonna have to say probably Arkham Knight is my top game of all time. Yeah, probably.
But Marvel games.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Oh yeah, I was thinking of superhero games, but I'd have to say Spider-Man 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I'm really thinking about saying Lego Marvel Superheroes because of how weird and surprisingly fun it was. I'm probably going to have to throw probably the X-Men on the arcade game. That'll be my third.
Nice. For me, it's got to be... I have a hard time picking a Spider-Man game because they all are similar, but Spider-Man 2 for starting off like the really high-quality version. Although, have you seen the new Spider-Man by Insomniac Games that's coming out on the PS4?
No.
Oh man, it's like it's like Insomniac Games and Naughty Dog are teaming up to do like the new Spider-Man, and it looks really good. Yeah.
Oh man, it's going to be amazing then. Dude, the people who write for Nathan Drake are going to be doing that? Fuck yeah.
And they're going to cover a lot more Peter Parker aspects of it, and it'll be like a more experienced Spider-Man, so we're going to have to do the whole Uncle Ben like origin story again. It's just going to be like Spider-Man at the peak of his career.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it looks really good. Like, look up some YouTube trailers for it when we're done here. They announced it at E3, I think, this year, but it looks fantastic. But that, I loved Marvel... X-Men Legends 2, I think, was my favorite of those action RPG ones.
Okay.
It really had like interesting skill trees and stuff, and like you could there was some meat and potatoes to the power building aspect of it.
And are you factoring in replayability or how are you picking that? Just
partly it gets a lot of points for the couch co-op aspect. I think every game's more fun when you have 3 of your friends there.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely.
And then. Man, lastly, maybe it's tough. There's I'm gonna say probably maybe X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. I beat that game like 3 times on the Super Nintendo. I just have so many fond memories of going through that game.
Yeah, okay. I can get that little Stockholm syndrome there.
Yeah. But not like Arcade's Revenge Stockholm, where it was just completely abusive. There were moments of joy in that game as well, even though it was hard.
Yeah, I doubt ISIS captures or prisoners of war are getting much Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, there's got to be a little bit of love.
Yeah, it's like
it's all be abuse.
You got it for people like Charles Manson, who was somewhat charismatic and also a psychopath.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, hell, every once in a while I pull out the old Ninja Gaiden and play that, so fuck it.
Yeah.
Why not?
or no, wait, I'm going to sub out and put the Marvel role-playing game in there. We played it like 4 times, but I always had a blast playing that game.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. I think that pretty much wraps it up then. Hopefully we did justice to the Marvel idea and Marvel games in general.
Tell us what games we missed. What games would be on your top 3 list of Marvel games, and then who are your top 3 Marvel heroes or anti-heroes?
Makes sense.
With Deadpool in there.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting he's Marvel. He's just such a weird character. But yeah, so great. Then we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Then thanks for tuning in.